Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday. Gotta get down on Friday because it's time for my Wrestlers of the Week. I often say, oh, it's been such a busy week on Wrestlers of the Week, but often that's just relative to the current situation we're living in because there's not that much wrestling going on. This week, I think, is the first one in quite a while where it's actually felt like a normal week. It's gone back to normal and there's been so much to talk about. And combine that with the news that New Japan's coming back soon, it's all starting to look up, I think. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at some honourable mentions. First and foremost, want to shout out FTR for their tag team match with the Butcher and Blade on AEW. Any other week, I think that not Dawson and Wilder, Wheeler and Harwood would be getting some points, but unfortunately they were crowded out a little bit this week. Still, very promising signs indeed. Also, Asuka, who had a really good match with Charlotte on Raw, but then lost it, which I don't think is a good decision at all. You want to keep Asuka strong, surely. Keep Asuka strong. What else? Gargano and Keith Lee, their match at TakeOver was actually good, but it was the extra stuff around it that I didn't find quite as good. The big set piece moments, the character moments, I didn't enjoy as much, but the wrestling itself, spot on. And now on to my number 10, picking up 1 point, and her first point of 2020, I believe. It's the legit boss, Sasha Banks. Sasha had a good week. She had a very good week, not just because she's now one half of the women's tag team champions once again, herself and Bayley winning back those titles that you could say they so richly deserve and are now sort of intrinsically linked to forever because of all the controversy at last year's WrestleMania. But also, it's a good week for Sasha in terms of the future. I think that she's in for a very big summer. Hopefully we see some good stuff because, right, here's just what everyone's been saying on the old rumor mill online, you've probably seen it. Sasha and Bayley's tag team isn't going to last very long. So yes, Sasha had a very good match on Friday, winning the tag team titles from Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. She had a very good performance. She picked up the win. She was the one who got the decisive pinfall. She screamed in Michael Cole's face once she'd won. All good stuff, all those boxes ticked. But earlier on in the match, there was a bit of more tension yet again between Banks and Bayley. And I think that in the future, we are going to see them fall apart and hopefully, at least in my mind, have a huge match at SummerSlam, which I believe is in Massachusetts as well. I think it's in Boston, so that's Sasha's hometown. So it could be very promising times for Sasha, but for now, I will reserve that, keep myself calm, because I am a huge Sasha fan, and I'm only going to give her 1 point this week. Congratulations, Sasha, new women's tag team champion and future SmackDown women's champion. I think so. Next up, a controversial one, a very controversial one. A wrestler that should be higher on this list, should be picking up a lot more points this week than she actually is. It's Charlotte Flair. First, let's talk about the positives, and then I'll talk about the negative stuff and the reasons why she hasn't picked up as many points this week as she probably should have, considering that she's wrestled in, 3 really good matches in 1 week? So Charlotte was 1/3. Oh, I should have given Rhea Ripley an honourable mention. She gets an honourable mention too. Charlotte was 1/3 of that awesome main event of NXT TakeOver in Your House. That was really good. She was part of a great match against Asuka on Raw, and she pulled double duty as well. She was also tagging with Asuka in a 3-team match earlier on in the night on Raw as well. A huge effort, a massive week for Charlotte. She has been appearing, of course, across all 3 brands, so she's been putting quite a shift in. However, on the other hand, I don't like the booking of Charlotte. I was delighted by the finish of TakeOver in Your House, thought that was really fun stuff, but Charlotte crucially didn't take the fall, and if that's the end of her NXT run, she's kind of helped nobody in the NXT women's division. We were all hoping that when she won the title at WrestleMania, at least she's going to boost the profile of the brand, she's going to improve the game of so many people in the women's division, make them look strong even in defeat. I don't think you can really argue that that's happened. And if that wasn't bad enough, I think what happened on Raw was even more blatant by WWE's booking. Basically, Charlotte had lost the NXT Women's Championship. It barely got mentioned in the show, despite her appearing on quite a hefty chunk of the show. And then she beat, everyone? Like, she won that tag team match alongside Asuka, which Sasha and Bayley were also involved in. She also, beat Asuka later on in the same night. And after ambushing Asuka following that tag team victory as well, she had Asuka's number. Asuka, remember, is the Raw Women's Champion. Bayley is the SmackDown Women's Champion. Bayley and Sasha are the Women's Tag Champions. All of them, in some way or another, lost to Charlotte Flair on Monday night. And I know that WWE are trying to portray Charlotte as this big Triple H figure, winning loads of titles, being really hard to beat, the top dog of their division. And I get it to a degree because in theory, when a babyface comes along and beats them, it's a huge moment, like when Bayley cashed in her Money in the Bank contract. But I don't think Charlotte loses enough to really justify it. I don't think she loses in big matches enough. I think that often she's portrayed as far too dominant, and it's getting a bit tedious. This isn't Charlotte's fault, of course. I'm not criticising her. I think she's great, but she should have picked up more points this week, and she only gets 2. Now we're going to totally flip around what I've just said. So from somebody who did too much this week, really, despite putting in really good performances and being very talented in the ring, Charlotte's booking was all askew. Now we're going to go for number 8 to somebody who barely wrestled, especially compared to Charlotte this week, but it was so effective and so well done and well written that they're getting 1 more point than her, and his name is Karrion Cross. We were all hoping, I think, secretly, or not so secretly in the cases of some, that Karrion Cross would roll into TakeOver in your house, destroy Tommaso Ciampa, and walk away with the win. And that's exactly what he did. Ciampa looked brave. He passed out rather than submitting, but at the same time, Karrion Cross, more importantly, looked like such a lethal threat. So that was going to get him some points on Wrestlers of the Week anyway, and now I'm even more excited for what's next for Karrion Cross because of what happened on NXT on Wednesday. In case you missed it, Karrion Cross, somewhat surprisingly, in my opinion, but excitingly too, has set his sights on Adam Cole's NXT Championship. Scarlett walked to the ring, placed an hourglass in the ring in front of Adam Cole, flipped it over and walked off, and Cole very poetically is left staring at the sand trickling through the hourglass and basically thinking, is my title gonna be taken from me? It's so effective, and it's so surprising as well because Cross is a heel, but he has just gone straight for Adam Cole. I'm enjoying the amorality of his character. He doesn't care about who's good or bad. He wants the gold, and he's going for it, and probably is going to win it as well, in my opinion. Number 7, one of my favourite wrestlers of the past year or two. It's none other than the grandson of a plumber himself, Cody. Just Cody. I should have learned that by now. It was another installment this week in Cody's Open Challenge, the TNT Open Challenge on TNT, of course, on AEW Dynamite. And I was really looking forward to this match between himself and Mark Quinn because I loved the first installment against Jungle Boy when Cody was basically wrestling like a big old heel. Now I assumed that this week things were going to ramp up even further. He'd be even more merciless, even more punishing, even more intense. But it kind of got stripped back a little bit. He was still clinical and precise, but he wasn't quite verging on heelish territory, near psychotic territory like he did last week. He was a little bit more controlled, a little bit more focused. And I think that was interesting. It delays the heel turn slightly. Yes, I'm fully convinced he's going to turn heel. And if you disagree with me, then I'm going to feel really sad when you're right and I'm wrong. But no, I am confident that Cody is going to turn heel. I just think it could take quite some time. But this match against Mark Quinn was good. I just feel like it wasn't as overt as last week's performance. Not that that's a bad thing, but it doesn't lead to more points on Wrestlers of the Week. Sorry, Cody. I'm sure that he'll get more. He's I think he's in 2nd place at the moment, so it's been a very good year for him. Number 6, the Archer of Infamy, Damien Priest, yo. Got so excited there for Damien Priest. I'll be honest, Damien Priest has never really clicked for me, whether as Damien Priest in NXT or as Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor, but that could all change after this performance at TakeOver in your house. And yes, lots of people were saying that Priest really should have won this match against a more renowned superstar in the form of Finn Balor, and to a degree, I agree with that, but on the other hand, I don't, because Balor's got other stuff going on to look forward to. As long as Priest looked strong in defeat, I think it would have been fine. And in my opinion, he did look strong in defeat. Priest was awesome in this match. He was really good. I think it's the best Damien Priest match I've ever seen. I mean, a lot of that could be down to Balor, but then again, a lot of that was down to the nastiness, I suppose, the don't like him very much, the slimy tendencies of Damien Priest. And despite Balor not being the squeakiest of clean baby faces in the past sort of half a year or so, I really wanted him to win this match because I didn't enjoy what Damien Priest was doing in the right way, as a proper wrestling fan should, not in a go away heat sort of way. So I think this was a very promising performance from Damien Priest, even if, the result of the match wasn't so promising for him. I think it's a building block, and I'd like to see where he goes in the future. And that bump he took, by the way, on the steps was gnarly as hell. I don't envy him. Good bravery, I suppose, for doing it. But man, that must have been sold the next day. Next up, number 5, it's none other than Mark Quinn, the guy who lost to Cody, but in defeat, I've given him more points. How does that work? Crazy scenes. Now, me and Matthew, I know, disagreed about this, as you'll probably see on the podcast later today. Matthew thought that Mark Quinn's selling in this match was rubbish. I thought his selling was absolutely brilliant. Let me explain. I understand Matthew's point of view, but let me explain why I'm definitely right. Right, first of all, let's talk about what happened. So, Mark Quinn slipped off the ropes trying a springboard move and tweaked his previously injured ankle, and the rest of the match he was hobbling, and eventually Cody took advantage of that and picked up the submission victory. Now, he still hit a lot of high-flying moves, a lot of dives, a lot of moves off the top rope, a lot of kicks even, some of them involving his weakened leg or using the weakened leg as a base for the kick. And I still thought it was psychologically a great performance. That's because Quinn wasn't just forgetting about the pain he was meant to be selling and just going all out with his crazy moves. It was taking its toll on him throughout the match. He'd throw a kick, he'd wince, he'd dive to the outside and take forever to get back to his feet and be limping all the way to the ropes to hit the next dive. He was really selling progressively the effects of this match on his leg throughout its duration. And I just thought it was a really, really well done performance. It certainly wasn't the flashy, amazing Mark Quinn performance that I think we were all expecting when this match was announced, but it did something different. I think it gave him a bit more substance, and I'm eager to see him in singles competition again at some point. Although I am a big Private Party fan, of course. But yeah, this really did tick all the boxes for me. I just thought it was great. Now on to Finn Balor. I mean, what is there to say about Balor really, number 4 this week? Because his match against Priest was a really good one. I know that I've given Priest a lot of credit for his performance in this match, but I also have to give even a little bit more credit to Finn Balor. He was the veteran here. He was leading the way. He was helping Damien Priest to his best match, certainly that I've ever seen. Because as weirdly as WWE have booked Balor over the years, sometimes that can just get in the way of us remembering that he is basically a super worker. He is an amazing wrestler between those ropes, and occasionally he'll just bust out a performance that totally reminds you of it, and this week was an example of that. This lockdown has really robbed us of so many, or delayed I suppose, so many awesome matches that could have been seen this year already. But the one that I think I'm most disappointed about missing out on, out of any promotion anywhere in the world, is possibly Balor versus Walter in Dublin. I think that would have been incredible for so many reasons. First of all, I've seen Walter have brilliant matches with people of similar stature and style to Balor, people like Tyler Bate, for example, even though Bate might be a little bit more technical, a little bit less high-flying than Balor, but they sort of can wrestle in a similar sort of way. They're utilising their speed and their finesse over the size and strength of Walter. So Walter clearly matches up well against Balor in that regard, and also it would have been in Dublin, the atmosphere would have been off the scale, and regardless of who won that match, it would have been amazing. But if Balor had beaten Walter in his home country, I think it would have been one of the great reactions of recent years. So that is a shame, but hopefully when everything slowly gets back to normal, we do see that match at some point in the fairly near future. Now, moving on to number 3, and no longer the champion of DDT over in Japan, but he's picked up a lot of points this year regardless, and he's picking up 8 more. It's Masato Tanaka. Now, weirdly, one of the defining stories of this year in World Wrestling has been the title reign of Masato Tanaka. You know, the old 90s legend dude. I mean, he's been racking up the points on this very series because his title reign has just been very good. His ascension to the title was a great story. His reign has been booked really well as well. And crucially, he's been just totally backing it up in the ring. He wrestles in a style that benefits his age, I suppose, but still, he's wrestling at a level far above what I think anyone would expect him to be able to. But unfortunately, tragically, his reign came to an end in what was a brilliant match. The best match, I think, of this week in wrestling. But yeah, what a reign for Masato Tanaka. I don't know if I agreed with it at the start, because obviously it's an older guy getting a belt and beating younger guys on the roster. But to be fair, that can work sometimes. And it worked in this instance because the matches were great. And it was such a throwback, and he's such a beloved figure that everything just came together perfectly. I know the reign had to end, but I'm actually a little bit sad that it ended, you know, because he really did earn every second of it. And in wrestling, that can be something quite beautiful. So fair play to you, Masato Tanaka. Unlucky for losing the belt, but well done for going out on your shield with a great match. Another great performance in what was a brilliant reign. Oh, it's heartwarming, isn't it? Next up, number 2, and she should be number 1 this week. I feel so bad. I know a lot of people are going to be really annoyed at me. Number 2 this week, though, the new NXT Women's Champion, and one of the pound-for-pound best wrestlers, I think, in WWE today. It's Io Shirai. Io Shirai, what, 2 years ago now, nearly, was the first ever woman to hit 10 points on Wrestlers of the Week. But I want to make it very clear that when I say that pound for pound she's one of the best wrestlers in WWE, I don't just mean in the women's division. I mean out of everybody. She is She is absolutely incredible. Before she came to WWE, I knew that Io Shirai was great in the ring. I'd watched a few of her matches against the likes of Kairi Hojo, now known of course as Kairi Sane, and other key figures over in Stardom, but I did not understand that she had such a good grasp of character as well. And since turning heel, although she might be a face again after this win, but since turning dark and evil, she has really tapped into something on NXT, and she's one of the most captivating things about the brand. Now let's talk a little bit about the match itself as well, the main event of TakeOver in your house, which was totally the right call to make that the main event, by the way. If Dream versus Cole had been the main event, I would have been so disappointed. No disrespect to those guys, but production was off, man. But no, the right match main evented, and the match was sick. Io Shirai was awesome. She really is one of the best high flyers around. She jumped off the house. What more can you want? She jumped off the house. And then of course the finish as well, with Charlotte having Rhea Ripley locked in the figure eight, and the one misstep of the match really, Io coming off while Rhea was sitting up, Nelly sort of landing on her head, but apparently Rhea was fine. Which is good. It was just a miscommunication, just one of those things, wasn't it? But in terms of the structure of it and the way it was set up, it was a good ending to the match. It was dramatic, with Charlotte trying to get her legs untangled and break up the pinfall, but being unable to do so. The one thing that's discouraged me from making Io Shirai my wrestler of the week this week is that she didn't pin Charlotte. And I would have loved it if she would have pinned Charlotte. But as we talked about earlier in this video, you've got to keep Charlotte strong. And now on to number one, and my wrestler of the week, perhaps somewhat fortunately, but I don't know if I should say that, because he did have an absolute banger of a match. It is the new DDT champion, Tetsuya Endo. Now I have to just, as much as I put over Masato Tanaka earlier, I really have to applaud Endo as well. Not only for this huge win to become the King of DDT Openweight Champion, I think I got the belt's name right there, but also for his performance. Back when Moxley faced Jake Hager in that empty arena brawl, much was made of the fact that Tony Khan said it's the best empty arena match ever. This may have been the best empty arena match of this current, the past few months. This was absolutely brilliant. Singles match, I'll say. It's probably the best pure singles match I've seen out of any in the empty arena era. It was so good. Tanaka and Endo matched up so well. Endo, of course, being the younger, the quicker man, really stepped up the pace, and Tanaka, to be fair, matched him all the way. But just from this match, I don't really have too much of an issue with Tanaka losing his belt here, because Endo earned it, totally, 100%. A few weeks ago, was it, a month or two now actually maybe? Time is a mystery to me. A short time ago, Endo got number 2 on Wrestlers of the Week because he put over a younger and bigger guy and looked great in doing so. And I felt bad for him, because to me, he was sort of the star of that match, but not the star of that match, not the guy who went over. This is redemption for him. He's done it. He's the star of the match. He's won the belt. He is not only, he's the top champion of the company, and I think he's one of the 6-man champions as well. What a week for him. And check him out if you haven't, because he's got a new fan in me, and I'm really pleased to say that Tetsuya Endo is my wrestler of the week. Now, let's take a look at that league table. Kenny Omega retains the top spot for now, but Cody is creeping up behind him. Tanaka has jumped ahead of Jon Moxley once again, and as we move further down, we'll see that the likes of Drake Maverick and Will Ospreay are clinging on to top 10 positions. With New Japan back soon, we could see the look of this league table change quite drastically in just a short space of time. And as we move further down, we'll see right at the bottom there, in joint 17th position, Tetsuya Endo, the new King of DDT Openweight Champion, being there on the league table. I didn't think about the end of that sentence before I'd said it. See you next time. In fact, no, before I leave you, I will give you a reminder that you can always tweet me. If you think you've seen a match or whatever, you want to recommend some wrestlers for Wrestlers of the Week honorable mentions, or even maybe a position on the top 10, then do tweet me at Jack the Jobber. Thank you once again for watching this video. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I will see you very soon.